Welcome to another video from Graylow60. Today we're going to be talking about politically correctness in China, or politically correctness anywhere in the world, I guess. Boy, she's a sunny day out here today. It is Christmas Day, December 25th in Nanning, China. And I was going to do a video about what is Christmas like in China, but it would be so boring because really nothing goes on here on Christmas Day in China. So, politically correct, what is it and how does it sync with the Chinese world? Well, it doesn't, because Chinese are not politically correct. You know, I've been here for a long time, and when I get on Air China or Southwest Air or any other Hainan Air, for instance, if you're not a good-looking Chinese girl, a certain height, a certain look, a certain weight, you're not going to be a stewardess. You're not going to be an overweight, fat girl working for any of these Chinese airlines. Why? Because you're not cute enough. You're not sexy enough. They want a person that looks good in a uniform. Well, is that politically correct? Absolutely not. But you know what? That's just the way it is here. They don't. There's lots of people that hire people because, oh, I work in a shop, a high-end shop. Well, why did you get the job? Because I look good. Not because I know how to sell things or anything like that, because it's all the way you look. Or the people that you know. Or the education you have. If you're a low scorer in grades in high school, university, they're not going to hire you. Why? Because you're stupid, and they'll tell you you're stupid, and we're not going to hire you because you're ugly, you're fat, that's just the way it is in China. It's strange here, it's different. You see, in China, it doesn't matter if a social worker says, oh geez, you know, you shouldn't say that. People are pretty open with what they say, and you know, if somebody doesn't like you, they just say, I don't like you. If somebody doesn't like the way that you look, they say, you're ugly. If somebody doesn't like the way that you act, they tell you right to your face. There's no, oh, and if you're a woman, if somebody calls you a girl, well, that's a compliment here in China. In the Western world, oh, a girl, now that's, how does that go? I'm offended by that? Well, I don't think that would work really good in China, because people here don't care if you're offended by what they say or what they do. And I think that's one of the reasons why the Western world is such a hard place to live in, because everybody's offended by everybody else's bullshit. You know, all of these special interest groups, from tree hugging, well, you know, I don't mind tree hugging because I figure the environment is a pretty special thing, but it goes to the point where it gets a little bit too far. I have a condo on Vancouver Island in Nanaimo. Well, I'm not allowed to wash my car in the parking lot. And I say, well, what if I use dish soap? No, you can't do that. Why? Well, because it wrecks our environment. But if I'm washing my dishes in my sink and the water goes down the drain, it's going to the same place. But you see, they don't care about that. They've made a rule and they say you can't do this. And the environmentalists have lobbied the city government to make sure that this rule is adhered to. Well, because of these special interests, it makes it harder on everybody else, because the organized small minority makes the decisions for the unorganized majority. And that's a regular Canadian that, you know, I drink beer, I'm not going to go to a meeting, I'm not going to waste my time dealing with this shit. But you know what? These little minority groups will waste their time dealing with this stuff, and it just makes it bad for everybody. I tell you, everybody. So when you're thinking about why the Western world is such a politically correct place. I blame it on these little minority organized groups that they have nothing better to do. They're the wives of husbands that have good jobs so they don't have to work. They're the husbands of wives that have good jobs so they don't work. They're welfare recipients. They're people that are on, I don't know, they just, maybe they do bennies or something like that, and they just have too much energy, so after they go to work they go out and do this and join these little groups. But it just makes it hard on everybody. In the States now, they're tearing down statues. Oh, so and because all these little groups are saying, well organized little groups are saying, well, Robert E. Lee is bad, or the Confederate flag is bad, or it's all the ideology of it. You know, the idea that they're tearing down statues, oh, you can't fly that flag. Well, you know, you might as well go back to the olden days of burning books and stuff, where, well, because it's bad and it happened. That's history, guys. Get over it. You know, learn from the mistakes that you've made, but don't tear down the monuments of a country and the history of that country just because a little group of people that are really good lobbyists say, oh, it's bad, so now we have to get rid of that. And then you get a politician in there with his finger up his nose saying, yeah, got to do that too. You know, you see the education behind these, just the stupidity of it all, that it just makes no sense. In China, what are they going to tell you? No, we're not going to tear down that statue. And if you're a bleeding heart liberal and you need to have a little group of people that say, oh, this is good or this is bad, and people will say, well, you can do that, but, you know, we're not going to listen to you. And the government is going to look at you and say, go away. We don't want to listen to you because we really don't care what you think. Our mandate is this, and that's not part of our mandate, so we're not interested. See, if we had more of that in the West, we wouldn't have all of this bullshit going on. Like, seriously, this is... I'm watching the news from China, and I see all of this garbage going on, and I just think, oh my God. Oh, there's no grades in school? Well, I wish that happened when I was a kid, because I would have just sat there and did nothing rather than actually try to study. Well, because you don't want them to feel bad about their not getting good grades. Well, no, you don't want them to feel bad about being freaking lazy. I've had a hard childhood. Well, look at the people in China and the childhood that they've had, and a lot of them have had it way worse than anybody in the West. And you know what? They study their asses off over here. Why? Because if you don't have good grades, you're not going to get into a good university. If you don't get into a good university, you're going to be a poor person for the rest of your life. And that's the way it is. Not only that, but if you don't know people, if your family isn't connected, you're pretty well pooched, unless you're a hard-working boy or girl. If you grew up poor, and I'm going to be making a video about this, growing up poor in China. Well, the second generation is going to be poor too, and the third generation is going to be poor too, unless one of them breaks out. A good way to have a good looking daughter. Oh yes, and she marries a rich guy, and then things get better for the family. Is that politically correct? No. But in China, they don't care. Life is like that. You know, so I think the West should get over this politically correct bullshit and just get on with their little world and not make it so difficult to get things done. Oh, we can't move that oil from Alberta to BC to the coast because special interest groups. Exactly. Why? Well, it might leak. Well, geez, you know, well, it might create 1,000 jobs or 20,000 jobs for people in Alberta and across the country, and the shipping and all of this other stuff. But you see, the special interest groups aren't interested in that. They're only interested in their own special interests, not everybody else's or anybody else's special interest. So if you think about that, they're not looking out for you, the Canadian government, the American government, the British government. They're looking out for their own interests. So you have 100 different special interests or 1,000 different special interest groups all lobbying for their little piece of the pie, and the majority saying, well, you know, I've got a job, I don't have time for this. Well, that's where all of these stupid decisions get made. And you knew I was going to get here sooner or later. Muslims in China. Oh my God, now where do I start? Uyghurs from Xinjiang province up north. Nobody's going to hire one of them. Why? Because people are scared of them. They're thought of as thugs. Whenever there's a mass murder in, say, the Kunming train station, where somebody's hacking people up with machetes, it's a Uyghur. When there's people leaving China to go and fight for ISIS or Al-Qaeda, whatever, it's Uyghurs. And you know, they're not a good group of people. They won't even spend the time to learn the Chinese language, and they're supposed to be Chinese living in China. So why would you hire one when you don't even, when they can't even speak your language? So, and they say, oh yeah, we're being persecuted. Well, you know what the Chinese government says? Yes, you are. You know why? Because you don't fit in. And that's just the way it is over here. So, you know, it's like, oh, don't even get me started. No, I'm not even going to go there with Native Americans in Canada or black people in the United States, because that just opens up a whole bag of worms. But you see, if there was Native Americans in China and African Americans in China, and they were whining about what happened 100, 200, 400 years ago, the Chinese government would just say, oh, get a job. Or if you don't have a job, you better have a really good family, because you're going to starve to death, because we're not going to take care of you. And we don't care what happened to your great-great-great-grandfather, and that doesn't make you any more special than anybody else in our country, because, you know what? We're here to go forward, not to look backwards, and this is what these special interest groups do. They wreck it for everybody. Politically correct, you know, you get these vloggers talking about politically correct. They're really mild-mannered compared to what I am. When it comes to politically correct, I don't believe in politically correct even 1%. And it's because I see it as something that has ruined the countries that I call home. You know, I used to live in the United States, I used to live in Canada, and now I live in China, and you know what? It ain't politically correct here, and this place is growing faster than any other country I've seen. As you can see behind me. See, this stuff wasn't here 5 years ago. And one of the last things that I'd like to say is, well, you know, Trudeau. I tend to think the Trudeau thing is probably closer. Boy, the sun is hot today and just bright. Anyway, so now Trudeau is apologizing to everybody, and every time he gets up there, he's crying. Oh, I'm sorry, our country did this, and I'm sorry our country did that, and give people $10.5 million to a frickin' terrorist? Are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, think about it. You know, that $10.5 million could have went into First Nations reserve to make sure that they have clean water. $10.5 million could have went into an inner city project that would help underprivileged children. No, give it to a guy that was fighting for ISIS or Al-Qaeda. I'm not even sure, but it's you see, it's just not right. So, like, I don't know if he got his pink panties in a knot or what it was, but you know, the Canadian government has gone way overboard, and I think we got to change that. So, and then Trudeau says, oh, we can reintegrate these ISIS fighters back into Canada. They leave Canada, they go over, they throw gay people off the top of buildings, kill them, and then they can come back to Canada to be reintegrated. Well, I think we got laws in Canada that state that, you know, if you're a sexpat and you go over to places like Thailand or Cambodia and have sex with children and you come back to Canada, well, that's an indictable offense in Canada, so you're gonna be prosecuted in Canada for those offenses. But if you go over and you start throwing gay people off of a roof because they're gay, or if you're killing people because of your beliefs, well, geez, you know, why not just integrate everybody? So, but being so politically correct as Canada is, my God, Martha, where did this all come from? Like, Canada took a really bad turn when they got the Liberals in this last time, and I'm just not impressed with it. It's a weird world out there, and I think Canada's going in the wrong direction. ISIS fighters back in Canada and accepting them and saying we can rehabilitate them after they've done the things that they've done, the ideology of what they've done. Are you guys on frickin' drugs or what? I don't get this. And you know, most of my videos are tame, but this one here, this one cuts pretty close to being I'm pissed. I don't see the reality in this. And as always, if you like this video or if you don't like it, like or dislike, I don't really care. Push that subscribe button though, because if you want to see what's on my mind in the future, the subscribe button's a good one to push. Share. Maybe people out there want to hear more about what I have to say about this. And this isn't the last video I'm going to do on PC garbage. I'm telling you, I'm a little bit. I'm watching this Canadian, and Trump is right. We don't have time to be politically correct because no other country is. And take it from the Chinese, they're not politically correct, and you know what? It works for them. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye now. Than Christmas Day in the West.